I'm Neal Harm, Secretary General of FCI, coming to you today from Seoul, South Korea, at the 56th annual event of FCI. And I'm joined by Doaa and look forward to having a little bit of opportunity to speak with you today.
Thank you, Neil. Hi. First of all, I would like to congratulate you on the first year in review presentation. It was fantastic. The room was full of very good energy. And I would like as well to thank Trade Finance Globe for giving me the opportunity to share my regional experience.
Very good, very good.
Yeah.
Well, if you could, just to give a bit of an introduction, you're part of the executive committee now.
Yes.
So we've gotten to know you, but let them know a little bit of your background, where you're from.
I'm always putting two hats, the executive committee member. I'm so proud to tell that I am the first Arab woman to be elected in FCI.
That's right.
And I'm representing a very, very potential region, which is Africa and Middle East. Mm-hmm. And I'm also the general manager of Egypt Factors. Egypt Factors is the first factoring company in Egypt, and they are the market leaders. They are part of Fembank Group, and they are so active in international factoring and other working capital trade finance solutions. And I must say that I am so much lucky to be part of the very initial stage of incorporating Egypt Factors and being part of the stakeholders in the Egyptian market whom works a lot to advocate, educate, and promote the factoring business in Egypt. So I'm so lucky to say that I was part of this very fantastic journey.
Yes, and we're lucky to have you.
Thank you. We are lucky to have you as well. The vibe today was quite fantastic. Thank you so much.
Oh, it's great. It's been a fun day so far. A very fun day.
Yeah.
You mentioned region, a region that you come from. And one thing that I've had an opportunity to learn in my years with FCI, and then in this role in the past just few months, how different the regions are. But how similar they are in terms of how they work together. Speak a little bit about the region that you come from, but then also the global regions as well.
Neil, I'm always trying to express or to give more details about and insights about the regional differences by telling a true stories, So let me give you an example about the Egyptian journey, because we started by implementing the international standards, because in that time the regulator and other stakeholders were so much smart to understand that in order to develop the factoring industry we have to go through the international standards. But of course, after doing a lot of customization to suit the market needs, and depends on the readiness of the market, the infrastructure, the legal and regulatory framework, the culture, the economical and financial circumstances, this will really reflect on how can you provide the factoring businesses in different regions. In my region, for instance, the lack of having credit insurance and credit bureau, the lack of having collateral registry for receivables, all of this was pushing us towards more domestic businesses. However, coming from very international exposure and working with Egypt Factors, we try to integrate the domestic with the cross-border, and we try to offer a tailor-made solution which could suit the market needs. So we start more to look into receivable factoring, to look into international factoring, to look as well into how to provide consumer factoring, even though a very unique type of factoring like car factoring, real estate factoring, all of this type of tailor-made innovative type of factoring businesses, because this is the market and this is the needs inside the market.
And it's important for that growth. And you touched on technology and integration and platforms. And one thing about FCI is we have almost a 50-year-old platform. We were one of the first fintechs in trade finance. Speak a little bit about how that technology and how that integration has helped you in Egypt Factors.
It's a very good selling point even in developing markets. When I am approaching new prospect, I'm also saying that we are an FCI members, and FCI invested a lot in one of the brilliant platforms, which is ED Messages. FCI invested more than 1 million euros 2 years ago to elevate on this ED Messages platform and to be able to incorporate the ED factoring platform to other supply chain finance solutions. And this worked very well because ED Messages is a platform could cater for multi-currencies transactions, could cater for a lot of compliance landscapes. partnerships.
Yeah.
So this is brilliant, and this is one of the selling points we're doing inside Egypt, to sell more this type of product for SMEs to understand, for corporate to understand, and other stakeholders. And supply chain finance, to tell you the truth, is part of the everything right now.
Yeah.
So for FCI member to be ahead of what's going on, they must integrate ED messages in traditional factoring products with supply chain finance, new factoring products. And this actually reflected in the composition of the membership right now with FCI.
Yeah.
We are having a lot of members coming from IT side. They are sponsors or members coming from IT. They are trying to provide IT solution, either from the side of risk prevention and fraud prevention, or even in the side of an ecosystem that could link the trading party together, seller, buyer, funder, banks or non-bank financial institution. So the future all will be going into this direction, how to combine traditional ways of doing businesses with the new technology. This is my point of view.
Yeah. You touched on factoring in supply chain finance.
Yes.
And I think that is such an opportunity for our industry of open account finance. Personally, from the banks that I was at most recently working, I saw the integration of a factoring transaction becoming a supply chain finance transaction.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, I see where many banks, many financial institutions view the products as separate. Factoring is separate from supply chain. We're starting to hear in the conference even this week where that integration can work, how a factoring transaction becomes a supply chain transaction. Explain to me what you're seeing in the market and how Egypt Factors is also.
Yes, actually, in a market, in a very emerging market, you have to be this type of very flexible mindsetting. You have to be the flexibility to understand what the market needs, what the needs of your client, and how can you complement your services with other players. So when we are doing the business in Egypt Factors, or even the entire market, we are trying to be smart to understand the need and how can we cover this need. We can cover it even by providing supply chain finance service solution, or even by doing a lot of synergies with banks. We can do the service side, they can do the funding side, or we can even have this type of collaboration with the corporate buyer. Because now technology is part of their system. It's what we are saying embedded finance.
Exactly.
So it's part of their system. So usually when dealing with corporate, you will gonna find the corporate dealing with supply chain platform, and they are willing to plug you in as funder in their platform, and they can expand the element of the finance into their suppliers, especially SMEs. And this is exactly the success story of the Egyptian market. So I must say that most of our portfolio coming from the reverse side. Why the reverse side? Because we are approaching big buyers, and via having the confirmation of the big buyer that they will gonna pay us eventually upon due date, we can extend the fund to the supplier, small suppliers, so we can extend the fund to the supplier backed by the big buyer and backed by the good creditworthiness of the big buyer. So we have to be so much energetic, smart, understanding, and having the expertise to be able to provide tailor-made solution. And I have to highlight the expertise because we start to understand factoring since our early stage from FCI. From the education element of FCI. And we were so much close to the experienced people inside FCI. So this gives us the leverage to do what we are doing right now.
I think you touched on several things there. One from an educational perspective. That's the value that FCI brings to our members in terms of understanding the opportunity. But you also touched on one thing related to deep tier financing. Right. So for many people around the world, they don't know that term. They hear deep tier financing, they're not quite sure what it means. Talk a little about deep tier financing going back into the SME, back into the supplier base, because I think that's an important opportunity that we have.
Yes, of course. Neal, we, since our start in 2007, when we were speaking about the deep tier financing and embedded financing and all of this nice terminology of supply chain finance, nobody was really understand the word.
Exactly.
But now I must say, because of the buyer-driven market, most of the Egyptian exporters who are the suppliers are very much aware of this. And if you are speaking about a client as a supplier, they already have their own supplier facilities from one of the very big banks dealing with a very big buyer. So, for instance, I have one of my clients dealing with Inditex in Spain.
Yes.
So, dealing with Inditex in Spain, they are providing him a complete solution of supply chain finance. They came to the supplier. They did a lot of IT, job, IT exercises for the buyer the supplier to start to use the platform. And now they are using the platform part of their enterprise solution. So it's an ERP solution. Inside this ERP solution, there is the element of funding coming from either the supplier and the supplier bank, or even coming from a domestic banks or domestic non-bank financial institution, could be factoring or any others. So now it's an integrated part of their entire ERP system.
Yeah. So, coming back to Africa, when you think about the deep tier financing, for me, that's where I see one of the biggest opportunities.
Yes.
Is across the continent, whether Egypt to Morocco down to South Africa. Speak a little bit more about the African market, the region that you're really around, and so there's a global aspect. Let's bring it back a little bit to more of a regional of Africa.
The African market is the potential of the growth of factoring. This is my own beliefs. And to do this, we have to be connecting with a lot of stakeholders. Supranational banks are playing a great role. Regulators and financial supervisors and other commercial banks, we have all to work together to make it done, because the African region is quite big, quite diversified, and there is a lot of opportunities as well as there is a lot of challenges. For us to be able to do business in Africa and to grow the factoring businesses, we have to be smart by connecting with supranational banks, connecting with regulators, connecting with other commercial banks to be able to get one big solution across the board. And this is, of course, will be supported by a digital platform. Digitization here is a key. In my own point of view.
I think you're right. This morning we heard from Kai, Mr. Kai Fair from Standard Chartered Bank, and running global trade for them. And one of his comments was about the opportunity of FCI specifically, really bringing partners together, banks together, non-banks together. Talk a little bit about that opportunity that FCI has, and how we can bring that to the global market.
I am lucky enough, Neal, to actually speak about this type of initiatives because I am very active with Afrexim Bank, and they are having a great initiatives in Africa region. They are the first one to provide the model of law. And this model of law has been acquired by a lot of countries. And we started ourselves in Egypt by acquiring the model of law. Then later on, we start to have a shape of a sort of complete shape of a law, which is presented to our parliament in Egypt. This was in 2017, and we got our first law approved in 2018. And Nigeria now is moving into this direction. I believe there is other countries will follow as well. So having the model of law coming from a supranational bank will help. Having as well as the schema of bank guarantees, because in Africa the credit insurance side is not available and is not common. So usually you will not find a credit insurance policies easily. You will not find credit information to give you some sort of comfort trading in Africa. So by having or by leveraging on the trade facilitation program EBRD is providing, or Afrexim Bank is providing, in providing sort of bank guarantee for the import factor for the export factor. So if I'm an export factor and I want to deal with the import factor, I can get sort of guarantee from a supranational bank, which could give me a comfort to deal or to take the risk of the import factor. This is a very good solution, I believe so. Also to get funding lines, because in Africa as well, funding lines is quite limited in foreign currency. So supranational supranational banks are playing a vital role in providing funding lines to factoring companies as well. So I believe this could be a good step forward in developing more factoring businesses in Africa.
I agree.
By leveraging on the support of Rexam Bank and EBRD and other supranational banks are playing and doing.
That's well said. That's well said.
Yeah.
Well, Doaa, I really appreciate the time
Thank
today.
you, Neal.
Your leadership, your support within FCI, it's infectious. It's inspiring.
Yeah, thank you.
And really appreciate that. I know it's something that everyone else is taking away from us.
Neal, I'm so passionate speaking about factoring. It's my passion. I have my own belief that factoring will be the future of the development of trade finance. I am happy to be here with you, and thank you so much again for this opportunity from TFG to explore more regional experiences. Thank you so much.
Very good. Well, thank you very much. And TFG, thank you for the support in this. I'm Neal Harm, Secretary General of FCI.